Right, people, we've got another introduction on DuggystoneRadio, and this is a totally different sort of vibe for me. You know, we do a lot of indie artists from indie genre, but we're about emerging artists, and we're about things that are different and talent. And when I got sent the the music for the artist that we're going to be talking to, I was pretty much blown away. It's very different for me from what I would normally listen to, but the talent is amazing. So I'm going to bring her on screen now, and she can introduce yourself. Introduce yourself to everyone.
Hello, my name is Brianna Tam, and I'm a electric cellist and a classical cellist. So I go around and I do live looping performances with my loop pedal and my electric cello, but I also do compositions for things like soundtracks, games, films, what have you. So, yeah.
Very much. I listened to one and was like, wow, that's really be great on a movie, like a Game of Thrones sort of vibe to it. And I was like,
Yeah.
this is just amazing. And I've watched some of your videos. We've got a few videos lined up, and it's brilliant for me because it's electronic. You do both electronic and acoustic, if that's the right word, cello. Do you do both?
Yeah.
You work on both. It's amazing. You do some movie scores at the moment.
Yes. Some films, I did a game last
Oh, you
year.
did a game. Oh,
Yep.
brilliant! I mean, that's brilliant to get into producing music for games. What game was that then?
It's called The Gold Crow. I don't know if it's like actually out yet, but I did write some music for it, so
Oh,
I think the beta version might be out. I don't think the full version's out yet.
so all you gamers out there, don't forget to go when that does drop. Go and check it out because I think you'll be impressed. Well, you're going to be impressed because you're gonna hear some of the music in a moment. We're gonna play something for you. We've got 4 tracks to play. And I think we're going to
Mhm.
start off with one, and then let's see if we get any questions popping in. But I've got one. Janny said it's your favourite one. Intrepid, is that the one? Intrepid, yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a story behind it? Is there a theme?
Well, the track itself doesn't have a specific story, but the album is called Growth, and it was a point in my life where I was faced with a decision where I could either stay the same and be comfortable and like do what I was doing, and I had a lot of things that were like comfortable and that were, easy.
Yeah.
But I felt like I wasn't reaching my full potential as a person and an artist and, whatnot. So I ended up deciding to leave that situation and face the unknown. Um, Basically going out and doing my own thing and not being dependent on like the community and the friends and whatever I built. Not that those weren't important, but I felt like I had a lot of growing to do.
Mm.
So Intrepid is part of that album of just facing the unknown and maybe being a little scared, but going
Yep.
forth with decision anyway. So
And that's the way. So what we're going to do? We're going to. Well, we've got a. Here we go. Now, what do we say, Janice?
We say cue the VT.
Cue the VT. So for you out there, watch this. We'll be right back after this. Wow. Wow, that's all I can say to that. That I've let that all play because obviously the compositions are 6 minutes long, some of them, and I don't think we'll play all of them to the full. But because that's your favourite one, and the video just drew us in, we had to play it all. That is brilliant. There's a few things come from that. I mean, for me, when a lot of presenters and people that do, let's say the mainstream music, everyone thinks that's music, but we're surrounded with the music like you produce all the time. Video games, films, dramas, TV, advertisements, whatever you want to call them. They've all got music behind them, and I don't think people realise they sort of unwittingly are listening to that kind of music all the time. Even though if you said, "Oh, do you like Cellist?" Well, no, I don't like that. Well, you do because you probably watch these films that you watch. So I've got a couple of questions for there for Manta Ray, who's a band and they're in the UK, and he says, "Love the way you've got the sound of that with other music, and he'd love to hear that against other music as well." And he says, "I think." Because with the girl in the top, it's almost like a horror film, isn't it? With the balloon. He said, "Where's the clown?" And he said, "Where was that filmed?"
It was filmed in Asheville, North Carolina, here in the United States,
Yeah.
um, which is kind of like a mountainous town near the Blue Ridge Parkway and the Appalachian Mountains. I don't know if you
Mm.
know where that is,
Yeah.
but the funny thing was that was filmed, it was probably like 30 degrees outside. And so
Really?
I was wearing that dress because it had to be at like 6 or 7 in the morning to get like the mountain shots. And
Because
like
I was going to
it,
say to you, was it cold? Because when you're playing, you can see the goosebumps on your arm, and I thought she's either really into her music, yeah, like really like this is getting to me, or it's cold.
was freezing. It was freezing.
30
So
degrees.
30
So for
degrees.
everyone in the UK, that's about zero. That's about freezing point, 30
Yeah.
degrees. So that is cold, a bit like it is in the UK right now. Oh my goodness! In a dress, playing the
The
cello.
art.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. You see, that's it. You have to suffer for your craft, don't you? Mantre, beautiful area. Janice mesmeric. She thinks she said. She's throwing all the posh words in now because we've got a cellist on. Is this what have you composed? Do you compose all your music, or does someone else compose? Or you compose all that? It's all your own.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't even know where to start. So I'm not a musician. I'm not a musician, but especially when you've got something like that, that's a skill in itself. Skill in itself.
Thank you.
What sort of inspired you to choose that as an instrument?
Well, when I was a little kid, I really wanted to play piano, but my parents didn't give me piano lessons for some reason.
Right.
And so kind of went, my whole childhood, like not playing an instrument, but wanting to. And then when I turned 8 years old, my school had like a strings program, and I really wanted to play the violin. And so I, filled out the form, I wrote violin on it, and I submitted the form late. And so they were like, oh, the violin slots are filled up, so you can pick cello or viola or bass. And like I was not educated in instruments at all, so I didn't actually know what any of those were. So I picked the cello kind of by accident.
Because it
And I
sounded good.
remember, yeah, and I went to the store and the guy like gives me this huge instrument, and I'm like, this is not what I signed up for. Like I really did not want to play it. I was like not excited. I'm like, this thing's huge, it's
Mm.
clunky, like it's just kind of nerdy looking, and like I was not about it. But obviously it worked out. So
Yeah, and so that's interesting then. So is that where the electric cello is a lot looks a lot lighter. It's a lot. It's still as big, but it's not as bulky as
yeah,
it. It's a lot narrower and
yeah.
obviously a lot lighter. So which do you prefer playing?
Well, nowadays I actually prefer, well, it depends. So the acoustic cello has a better sound.
Mm.
So I record exclusively with that. If there's like a really important like live performance, I might use that too. Um,
Yeah.
but the electric, it sounds a little silly, but the aesthetic really like changes my mindset when I'm playing.
Mm.
And so the fact that it looks the way it does and it feels the way it does and it sounds the way it does puts me in a different sort of zone
Yeah.
when I'm playing.
Yeah.
So I mean, it kind of depends what the purpose is.
Yeah, because I think you can do. I'm right because I've seen you playing, and you can almost. It's almost like you can do. I don't know if it's because it's the electric, but it seems like you can do something more with it. It's almost like a guitar feel as well as a classical string instrument. That's the sort of vibe I've got. I mean, hey, I'm new to this. I've looked at some of your stuff, and we've got a video we're playing it in a minute, and yeah, I think you could potentially get more out of it. I presume because of it being electronic.
Well, the interesting thing is the bridge, like the center
Hmm.
part, the wooden part, um, everything's like there's a pickup inside of the body. And so I can actually use the bridge to get percussive sounds, which if you play any of my live videos, you'll see that I do that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and on the cello, the acoustic cello, you can get acoustic sound or percussive sounds more through the body. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, that's one of the perks is that it does have the bridge as a kind of a percussion instrument, which like I would not recommend because the bridge could be fragile, but that's just the choice I make.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's brilliant. Oh, Janice asked why the cello. She picked the cello because it was sounding groovy, and she was too late to get into the violin. But actually, a few things there. Your parents didn't want you to play piano, and you missed. This is where things happen. You missed the deadline to get in the violin. I think it's been an unfortunate accident that actually we're
oh yeah,
glad that you didn't do the piano and you didn't do the violin and you've done this because I think it's brilliant. Very different. Very different.
I'm
I
glad
think
to. Thank you.
love it. Love it. What have you got planned coming up? So you've obviously done something for a video game, and I think you do some I don't know if you can talk about some of the stuff that you're doing. You're doing some things with movies.
Well, I just finished up the score for a film called Wildfire. Um, I think that'll be out probably in the fall time.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's going to be available soon. I also worked on a film called Healing Waters. So it's kind of funny because they're like antithesis in a way, like Wildfire, Healing Waters. Um, but yeah, those two will be coming out at some point. I know they're submitting to festivals right now.
Mm.
And then personally, I have my second album coming out on June 23rd, tentatively.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm gonna make a big deal about that when it's ready to be released.
Well,
So.
definitely let us know. You're based stateside. Have you done anything in mainland Europe or in the UK? Have you just played any concerts over here? Have you done anything this side?
Not yet. Not
No?
yet. I'd like to.
Cool. So
No,
if anyone knows anyone that's booking people talented, classical music with a modern twist, we know your girl. She's here.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that's why I was going to ask this question as well. So, who's your main influence?
Well, I had a lot of influences growing up. So, I was classically trained. So, from a composition standpoint, there were a lot of composers that I really admired. I really like, I don't know if you know these names, but Tchaikovsky, Shostakovich, Prokofiev, like Rachmaninoff, those kind of people.
Yeah.
From a playing standpoint, there is a cellist who's actually British. She's no longer alive, but her name is Jacqueline Dupre, and she was like a child prodigy, and she had a lot of like trauma and stuff, and she ended up getting multiple sclerosis, so she died at like a very young age. But like she was known for like she was just super intense, and especially like in a male dominated society at the time, like it was very like different to see a woman like so intensely playing the cello. So she was really cool. Nowadays, like I'll listen to a lot of different composers and take influence and stuff, but I try to stay true to my own sound and my own voice because I find that, like I tend to like if I listen to too many people, whether it's musically or like friends or whatever, I get pulled in a lot of different directions.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like I'm channeling when I'm playing nowadays, so that's my influence, I guess. It's just channeling from like the universe or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, and I think that's brilliant. I've spoke to a few people, and I do stuff. I do public speaking in schools, motivational talks, and I always say, do what you're passionate about. I think all too often, and you broke through that, with people trying to create something that they think everybody wants. And you know what? Not everybody wants it. So the best thing you can do, and I think it becomes. It's more authentic if you do the thing that you want to do or what's coming out from you. I'm completely wacky, and I do live shows, and I do all sorts of interviews, and I just let it flow, and it's just me challenging out. People won't like it, but don't like some of my interviews, won't like some of the things that I do, but I do it because it's what I want to produce. Yeah. And sometimes we have to flip, don't we? So I'm being completely different interviewing you than I would do someone else. So we have to be a bit more, out there. Do you know what I mean? So but great, challenge channel through what you want to channel through, which I think is brilliant. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to play a little bit of this one. It's aorta. Is it aorta? That's it. Aorta. Yeah, aorta. So this is not filmed on a hillside, and it's not 30 degrees because you've actually got shorts on. So it can't be freezing in there, can it? So we're gonna play. So what's this about? We're gonna play. We'll just play a couple of minutes of this. So what's this? What's the theme with this, or the story, or what you're trying to invoke with this music?
Well, that one is going to be on the second album, and the second album does have like kind of a story. So that one's going to be second. The first track is like kind of entering this journey. It's kind of optimistic, and then it plunges you into the deep end. So this one's kind of like coming to the realization of like your situation and like maybe becoming aware of the things that are not so great in your situation, like just kind of waking up and realizing all these things. It's kind of hard to put into words, but that's the best way I can describe it.
It's called life. What do we say, Janice?
We say, cue the VT.
Cue the VT. We'll be right back after this, people. Brianna's absolutely brilliant. Honestly, I just let me just pause that now. like I say, we could listen to it all. Go on. You're gonna have to go and watch these people. I'll be creating a blog from this anyway, so you'll be able to go and find the videos and what have you. But I love that because that's that. The classical stuff, the previous one, brilliant, love it. I think it's great, but I can really, I think a lot of people can really relate to that because you're doing your loops and you're bringing the sounds in. I think there's quite a lot of people do something similar with different instruments and normally with beats, don't they, with drum sounds. But to do it on with a cello and what you're doing now, I just love that. I can really get into that. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Brilliant.
Thank
It is, though. It's really cool, isn't it? So I don't know if I asked you early on because sometimes I forget what I've asked. So the transition, what made you transition to the electric cello? What was?
Well, so I started cello when I was 8, and I was always very drawn to the musical side of things, and like was always drawn to music, but they sent me down a very strict classical route. And I grew to appreciate the classical music, but it wasn't necessarily like what I wanted to do. It's just like you play cello, so you're going to play classical. Like it's kind of this thing that's set up in society. And so when I was, in high school, when I wanted to practice, instead I would just like maybe play some like Metallica or like some Muse or something on my cello, and I would like make these arrangements in my head of these covers. But I was like, no, I can't make a living off of that. Like I have to, stick to my classical thing. And then I went to conservatory for cello when I was in college, and it was horrible. I hated it. And so when I was in my second year, I dropped out of school, and I didn't know what I wanted to do at this point. I didn't really like the cello because like the schooling kind of like tarnished my relationship with it. But then I started experimenting with like a pickup on my acoustic cello and a very basic lead pedal. And what I loved was like I always loved to like encompass myself in like music and like in the experience and kind of like take myself to a different realm.
Yeah.
When I listened to people's music, and I felt like when I was looping, I could do that, but like with myself, like I could create my own worlds, not just like go to someone else's world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's different than playing with like a band or something, because like everybody has their own influence and stuff, which is great. But like when it was just like all my sounds, I felt like this is my world, this is like my safe space, whatever. And so eventually one of my exes gifted me an electric cello, which is not this one. It looks like this one, but it's a different one.
Did you smash that up? Because
not him, but
pardon?
I dumped him.
Oh no, I didn't mean that. I didn't say that. You've got a new one. I say, did you smash it up because the relationship ended?
No. Well, he got mad and he wanted it back when I broke up with him, and I was like, I'm not going to fight the battle. So I gave it back.
That's you can't do that. People, if you give someone something and you split up, that's it. You've give it to them. Oh, that's terrible. We won't name and shame him. We won't do that.
No. But I didn't fight it because I'm like, well, that's bad energy anyway, so I'm just gonna give it back. And I got the same exact model. And so I got that as a gift. And like again, like the sound is technically better on the acoustic, but it kind of just put me in a different headspace when I performed. And it, people pay attention, which is important for what I'm doing. So it's like, hey, I'm gonna like build a world for you. Like it'd be nice if you paid attention.
Definitely. I like I said before, I totally agree. I like classical music. I couldn't listen to it all day, but I do like classical music. I think it's just something about it's very calming. And it draws you in and it takes you to a different place. But what you're doing there with the electric version, I think is brilliant. And I think more, like I said before, more people relate to that. I'm watching it going, oh, this is great, because you can do so much more with it, can't you? You could actually produce, and it's great that you were talking about some of the things that you were trying to do with rock bands. And that is brilliant, because there's some bluegrass sort of artists, and they do some rock stuff, and it's all like they're all banjos and what have you. And I think taking a track and totally changing it into something else and a different sound, it works. What an amazing sound. Love it. That's from Janice. I agree. Do you perform solo, or have you been on any gigs, or what do you do from that aspect?
Yeah, I perform pretty much exclusively solo. I had a band or two bands at different points, but it didn't really work out because I really like to have direction and control over my music.
Yeah.
And I can't really loop in a band. So yeah, I just actually just got home 2 days ago from like a mini tour. So I'm kind of chilling out for a little bit. Um, but yeah, I
Nice.
perform solo, and what I've been doing lately is like, I don't know if you've seen like EDM DJs or whatever, but they'll, you know, be on stage, and they'll kind of just go from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. And the people are kind of like in this trance, and there's like all these visuals behind them. And so I've been sort of trying to move in that direction where
Yes.
I'll have like a 3 hour set, but I'll just like go and go and go for like 1 hour, take a break, etc. And a
Brilliant.
lot of it's like improvised. I'll throw in some covers just to like make it relatable, which I think is important because if someone doesn't know anything about cello or classical music or anything, like you need to earn their trust. So if you play a cover and you play it well and you play it better than the original, then they start to trust you, and then you can start doing whatever you want.
Yeah, I
So
think,
it's like,
yeah,
um,
definitely.
but
Like
yeah,
a bit like a gateway drug. But it's a gateway. You're right. You've got because there's a lot of people out there that are unconscious people, viewers or people that would come to your concerts or listen to your music that are not aware of it. But like you say, if you listen to it and go, wow, that's really good. We was listening to, there was a show we did today, and someone put a cover on. It was, I forget what the track was now, but it was like totally different. You think actually they did a cover of a track. It was like Viking rock or something, I don't know, but really bizarre. And you think, actually, I go and investigate them after listening to that track, because what they did with that classic track, we can relate to, and we want to know a bit more. And I think that's what I think it's good what you're doing. I really think it is. And I've already picked up on you're independent, and I don't think you'd want to be in a band. However, if you was doing your set, who would you have you thought about who you would like to be on with? So you talked about electronic dance music. Would you like to do a set mixed with something else?
like Hans Zimmer has these like live concerts he's been doing, where he has like the full orchestra and the band and everything he around. He plays like soundtracks from like a lot of the major movies that he's done. I don't think he has visuals actually, but that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah,
But I'd always wanted to do something like that where like, you know, we do a bunch of film scores and eventually like we have a big show. I've actually started working with a group called Cerebral Music Group. Um, and it's tied to a band called With Lions, and they do a lot of like work for like film trailers, film scores, what have you. And at some point in the future, we've talked about doing a show like that where like we have like the full band, orchestra, whatever, and we
yeah,
play like film scores based on like whatever sort of soundtracks that they end up doing.
brilliant.
Um, yeah.
Brilliant. And I cannot see you not being more successful and going on and doing more films and having enough to fill a concert with just your tunes. Because I think this, sorry, don't even want to insult you with tunes, but with your music, I think it's absolutely brilliant. Oh, it's come back on here. I know I'll jump all over the place because we've got questions coming in. He said Ed Sheeran because of the looping, not of the sound. I was a bit confused when he said that, but he's clarified what he meant by that. She sat there going, what is he going on about?
If you don't know them, you should check out Apocalyptica, and they got famous from doing like Metallica covers on cello.
Yeah, there's lots of
And
there's
I
lots.
was,
Go on, carry on.
yeah, when I was like 14 or something, I saw a video, and they were playing One by Metallica, and by the end, the guy's like hair is just like flailing all over the place. And I'd never seen anything like that, and also YouTube was like kind of new, so
Yeah,
it just like completely like blew my mind that you could do that with the cello. And I actually saw them live for the first time in like September, so that was kind of cool.
excellent. Brilliant. Well, we're going to have to check out. I've been writing things down because I want to go and check out some of the things you've been talking about. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Now, we had 4 tracks lined up, and we're going to play snippets from the other 2 as well. I've not got any live stuff on here because I was told by my producer, these are the tracks you've got to play, so that's what I'm playing. So, but we will go and check out your live ones at a later date, and we'll get people to check you out. Because you're on YouTube, you've got your own YouTube channel, and I urge people to go and check it out. Bioluminescence, is that what you say it?
Bioluminescence.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm dyslexic, you see, so if you start putting words like this, I've no chance. So
You're doing great.
I try. I keep trying. I know I can't get bands' names right. So what's this one? What's the theme for this track?
So this is my latest single or original release, and it's the last track on the upcoming album, and I started writing it in 2019, and it was called Stuck in a Rut at at that point because
Yeah.
I was kind of stuck. I was kind of miserable, and it sounded much different. It was very like depressing, and I was like, I don't like it, but I feel like it has potential. So I put it away. I brought it back up in like January 2021, and yeah, I just completely redid it. I made it, or no, sorry, 2022, but I made it more like optimistic and like just kind of went for it. I didn't really think much about it. And then I listened to it when it was done, and I'm like, this is way too happy compared to like most of the music I write. Like, I didn't like how optimistic it was,
Right.
but I was also going through a lot in my personal life at the time. And eventually, what I realized was that I'm a big believer that we have to be faithful to the visions that we have or the things that we want in life in order to realize them. So you have to know what you want and stay faithful to that despite what your outside circumstances are telling you. So I realized that bioluminescence is that. And it's about producing your life from within, which is what bioluminescent creatures do. And so that one's at the end, but I released it earlier so people know the end and the beginning, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you're educating us. So yeah, definitely. I love it. I love it. I love the story behind it as well. Now, what do we say, Janice?
We say, cue the VT.
Be right back after this, people. That was my indulgence then. I played the whole thing because I love that track. I love that track. Oh, hang on. I love it that much. I was playing it again. No, that is just stunning. I've just put a comment on the feed saying, "Isn't she good?" And someone said, "Never mind, better than good." Yeah, absolutely. I love it. I love it. I know I'm waxing lyrical about it, but well, yeah, I never thought I'd be interviewing a cellist about music like that. I think it's brilliant. I do. I love it. Love it.
thank you.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? It's good. And I think it's probably the right thing you held off and brought it back because I don't know that doesn't feel depressing and it doesn't feel light-hearted. It's got it seems it's like a serious sound to it. Not happy, not sad. It's like middle of the road. I love that. Oh, someone's put this is a song for lovers. Take that what you will. I think you're right. I think it's great. I think you could put that anywhere, couldn't you? You could have that on the back of a movie. You could have that on a game, a sequence in a game that something's going on. You could have it. I don't know. You could have that playing in the background while you're having a nice romantic meal. You could put that anywhere, and it'll work. That would just work. That would work. Yeah.
Appreciate it. It's
Yeah, really, really good, really good. Well done for that. It's brilliant. Is that a mix of classic? Is that all classic, or is that a mix of the both? Because I can't work it out.
I don't know. I mean, it is what it is. I don't try, but I found that my music is very much influenced by the time that I live in, I guess. And so, actually, when I was in school, I did take a composition class, and in any type of art, there's kind of like a highbrow version, whether it's like visual art or music or whatever. So the teacher was a very like well-known modern composer, and but she liked her highbrow stuff, and so I wrote stuff that was similar to my stuff now, and she didn't really like it because it was too simple or too like it wasn't complicated and
I get it.
unaccessible.
I get it.
And I stopped composing for a long time because I'm like, well, geez, if she doesn't like it, then I have no chance. Then I realized I'm like, but the whole point is like, so classical music is quote unquote dying. Like there's a huge debate about that. And I'm not going to comment whether it is or it isn't. But the issue is like, there are a lot of older folks in the concert halls and not young people. And it's because we're not listening and we're not catering to that audience. And so it's not intentional, but I do feel like my music is, I make it a little more accessible to your average listener. Yeah. And if they want to listen to classical too, that's cool. If not, then at least we have people listening to modern classical music.
There's a lot to pick at there, and you're right. We need to. The things have moved on, and radio, and like radio's not what it used to be. There's not. You ask any 20-year-old about what stations you listen to, and they go, "I don't listen. I've got this, and I put Spotify on, and I've got this, and I listen to drum and bass. I listen to this." You're right. You need to cater for a younger market, and I think you're doing that. I could actually see you being accepted by a younger generation for what you're producing, because let's face it, some of the classic stuff, it's hundreds of years, it's 100 years old. It's like, what is it? It's like it's crazy. I mean, I can totally relate to what you're saying about the highbrow, because my wife's an art. She does other things, but she's a designer maker. So she works in ceramics, wood, painting, and everything. And that piece on the wall, she actually made that as one of her degrees. If you can see the light,
beautiful.
and it's ceramic with tiles with lights around it. And that was the same. Some highbrow art experts came, and it nearly finished her, because they came and went, oh, don't get it. It doesn't really. What you produce? Basically, you've just another thing she'd done and gone. So you've just printed that, have you? No, I've not printed it. I've made the design. It's a conception from something else, and I've made abstracts. I've done this. Oh yeah, okay. And you think it's the bizarrest thing. I was in the Tate Modern on the weekend in London, and I get out, and then somehow I look at it and go, what is that? There's a pile of sand on the floor that someone's poured. Then he's took 4 handfuls of sand out and let it fall round to see how it interacts. I'm like, it's a pile of sand. It's a pile of sand that anyone could just pour on the floor. I don't get it. But that could influence something else. I get it. I get the highbrow. It's a bit like fashion, isn't it? You know, some of these catwalks. So it's frustrating for me that I see people like you and other people that are talented that could potentially be pushed off the path because it doesn't fit the norm or what we expect. And I think fair play to you for doing what you're doing. And it seems like you're on a massive journey personally, creatively, in what you're trying to do. And I think I think what you're doing is going to just keep on evolving and evolving. That's what I see anyway. Brilliant.
Thank you.
I hope I picked all that apart, but there was a lot to understand there. But yeah, damn these people, these experts that put the talent off. It's ridiculous. Crazy.
I know that a lot of the people who like graduated that school that I went to are now doing like, administrative work and accounting and stuff. So I don't know how that's working out.
Exactly. Yes, we should be taught. It's like history and the classics and Shakespeare or whatever it is. Yes, we need that because that's the history of where whatever we're doing craft is. But you need to take that and influence. I was having a discussion with someone today. I love modern country music, the new country music. And he's like, oh, no, it's not the same. It's rubbish. Like the country and western. If you play me country and western, I'm not a massive fan. The odd track. Modern country music is great. And guess what? That appeals to more people because it's more in line with pop music. So more people like it. So those out there, and the person that was talking to, well, those people won't be around eventually, so you need the younger generation. Same as the concert halls, it's full of old people, potentially.
Yeah.
Then what happens when they depart? Because they're going to they're not going to live forever. Who's going to fill it then? So.
And also, another thing is these orchestras are funded by like wealthy donors and sponsors and stuff who are typically older. And so without getting into economics and politics, like the younger generation's not going to fund that the same way that older people are. So they're not going to have the money to run these orchestras because there's like a lot of people in each ensemble and they have to pay every single person. So it's a lot of mouths to feed.
And you're a person of one that can produce a multiple, creative sound. Someone's put on creativity is about perception and is subjective, very much so. But yeah, I think it's great. Mantra, self-belief is important if you want to achieve anything. It is. You've got to go. I talk about this all the time. If you're trying to produce something because you think everyone wants it, it won't be true to you. The fire won't come out, and it'll just be flat. And you'll get fed up with it because it's not what you want to be doing. But you carry on doing what you're doing. I think it's stunning. Let's see if
I think people desire authenticity, even like in all sorts of different forms.
Yeah.
Like you'll see things that like art that doesn't really make sense, but someone's being like really authentic and passionate, and it's like, okay, I understand that.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. Some of the wacky stuff that I saw some stuff at the weekend. I'm like, I just don't get this at all. I like what I like, and I'm like, this just doesn't make sense. But but someone's going to get to it, and I think it's what it evokes in you, doesn't it? So that piece, the music we've been playing today, it means something to you on a personal level because you produce it, and that's why it's great to interview you, so we can get that aspect. However, if we played that to someone else tomorrow and didn't tell them your backstory, they go, oh, this makes me feel like this, and that's great, isn't it? And they can have their own perception of it. else have we got? So, this is something I normally ask some of the other bands. Has there been any memorable concerts that you've done? We normally say, what's the worst one? We've had bands that turned up to a mic night, open mic night, and they've turned up and there was nothing there. In fact, they didn't even have a mic, or they had a mic not even on a stand, it was on the floor. Is anything like that? Any disasters? Because they normally stick in your mind and they're generally funny.
I can't think of a disaster off the top of my head, but I did recently play at an art sort of show, and it was in Florida, and so it had just rained, and I was supposed to be outside, and so the guy's like, "Hey, do you want to like set up under the tree, even though it's like muddy outside and everybody's inside?" And I was like, "No." And so I went inside, and there was like, all the artwork was up, so there's no room to like set me up, but there's this pool table, and I'm like, no one's using the pool table. And so I got up on the pool table and like actually played the show on the pool table. So if you do go on my Instagram, you can see the video of me like playing on a pool table.
I'm apologising. Yes, I want to get my dress covered in mud and my shoes in this mud. Thanks very much. Well, that's great. Now I love it. I'm getting on the pool table. Yeah, we've all been on the pool table before, but not playing the cello. That's the thing,
different content.
It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Like you obviously do some of your things solo, and obviously you're very independent, so you don't really want to be in a band. But have you done any things where you're actually with a band? As in, I don't mean an orchestra. I mean, as in like a music band, drums and guitars and everything. Have you done stuff like that?
I was in a band like right after COVID for like a few months. Okay, actually, no, I was in a band right before COVID. Then COVID happened and the band kind of split apart. Then we tried to come back together, but some of the members didn't want to do it. So it was like a different iteration of the same band. And we got a lot of shows very quickly because like we had a good sound, but it was kind of disastrous, honestly. And, in classical music, there are chamber groups, which are basically like bands, but classical. So it's like a small 4-person, 5-person group, and they travel around and they do shows. So it's the same concept. And like, I found consistently that there's so much ego and there's so much drama and so many opinions and all these different things. And like, it takes away from the beauty of the music. And the best chamber ensemble I actually ever had was when I was like 16. Because there was like a coach who was like an adult and she was like in charge. And so our egos couldn't get in the way because she was just like, do this, do that. And so actually it sounded really good. But like going forward when you're working with like adults, it's like, everybody has their own opinion, which is fine, but it's just so much band drama.
Too many divas in the room. Too many divas. I'll tell you what, I love doing the interviews. I love interviewing bands and artists and getting to understand them, what makes them tick, why they've got to where they are, where they're going. And I've really, this has been a really interesting one for me. I love your music. I love what you're producing. I love your attitude. And I think you've already got a great future ahead of you anyway, and I just think you're just going to go from strength to strength. So is anything that I've not asked you want to talk about? Where's the best place to people to find you and where you're appearing next? I think that we could finish with those, couldn't we?
Well, I definitely post the most on Instagram, and that's most of my my shows and my behind the scenes stuff. And it's a little confusing when I'm pitching my music because my live stuff is a little different than my recorded stuff. And so, like I said earlier, it's a lot of like improvisation, and it typically gets a little darker or more epic or more intense in some ways because it's completely spontaneous. So I don't know what it's going to sound like. And it's kind of hard to advertise that.
I love that.
But you can find more of that on Instagram. But I might actually start streaming, like live streaming soon, just to like really showcase what I can do, because I can't really show that in like a recorded studio session, So
yeah, you should.
Yeah, and then Spotify and wherever you listen to your music.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Thanks very much for coming on and giving us your time, because I know you're busy. I know you're having a bit of a break from your concerts you've been doing, but it's been a pleasure chatting to you, and I really like your stuff, and I urge everyone to go and check you out and see what you're actually doing. So this last track, is it Eris? Is that the right one? Have I got the right one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What's is there a story behind this? Is there a feeling, a
Well,
theme?
so that's going to be fourth on the album.
Yeah.
So just to like optimistic, you get plunged into the deep end, then you kind of like realize how dark things are. And then the third one's like a really intense, like, okay, the album's actually starting now. And then Eris is fourth after that, which is like kind of when hell breaks loose. And so the goddess Eris is the goddess of, I think, like war and strife and all these things. And so she used to like relish in like warfare and bloodshed and all those, good things. So yeah, that's kind of about her in a way, but it also reflects where I was in my story, where I was kind of in a mood. So yeah.
Well, that's brilliant. It's been wonderful. Well, we're going to play the show out with this. We're going to let you get on with your day, and like I say, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and wish you all the best in the future. When your new stuff drops, please send it to Janice. Let us know all about it, and if we can promote it, we will promote it for you. But it's been wonderful. Thanks very much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. It's been my pleasure. So that's Brianna Tam. Go and check her out. She's absolutely wonderful. And we're going to finish off with, as we say... Now, what do we say, Janice?
We say, cue the VT.
Thanks very much. Brilliant. Let's play this. You'll agree, totally different to what we normally do. However, it's brilliant, isn't it? Absolutely brilliant. So this has been another Duggystone Radio introducing. I'll just fade that out. She is brilliant. That goes on for another couple of minutes. Go and check her out. I think what she's creating is amazing. It's very different. And like we said in the interview, we can relate to what she's doing. She's taking a classical instrument and a classical sound, and she's twisting it into her own theme and her own feeling. And I urge anyone to just go and check her out. Definitely going to be following her on Instagram. She is absolutely brilliant, very talented, and you can feel it in the music, the story, where she's come from, where she's going to. And I adore doing these, and that one was a very special one, and I hope you agree. Thanks everyone that's made some comments, taking the time, and go and check her out. This has been filmed for Duggystone Radio introducing. Go and check us out. Go to DuggystoneRadio.com, press the player. We have shows 24/7, and we heavily focus on emerging artists. And thanks to Janice for setting it up. Oh, go and check out Wolf and Brew. Get 20% off them if you go to wolfandbrew.com, type in Duggystone Radio, and we'll get rid of that one. We don't want that. Until next time, it's been an absolutely amazing show. Thanks very much. Thanks, Janice, for setting it up. Wonderful. Until next time, Kirk out.